A bit of good news when it comes to the battle against inflation in the United States. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says inflation eased for the fourth straight month in July. So-called headline inflation rose 2.9% from a year ago. That's its lowest rate since March of 2021. And joining us now to discuss all of this is William Lee, Chief Economist at the Milken Institute. Thanks so much for being with us. William, just dive in. This latest inflation data, your reaction?
What a sigh of relief. Between yesterday's report and today's report, there's a lot of confirmation that inflation is starting to cool off and we're starting to moderate in terms of its increase. But if you ask the man in the street, are you better off than you were last year? He's going to say, my costs are really skyrocketing. If I have to pay car insurance, that's 19% higher than it was last year. And if I have a pet to take care of, the veterinary services and pet services are all 6% higher. So the cost of living is still very high, but financial markets are relieved that the Fed at least got the message that it's not getting worse and that they can start to cut interest rates. And that's the good news.
So the reality is numbers are coming down, but the psychology of it all, people still the man on the street's going to say, well, no, I don't see any difference. When might they see or feel some relief? At what stage do you think?
Most of the relief they find is going to be when they go buy stuff like cars and food and pay for gasoline. The stuff that they buy is getting better because, in fact, the costs are actually coming down. But when they go to pay rent and when they pay car insurance, those services are still very high. And the Fed really can't do much about those. Those really come about because of regulatory issues and, in case of insurance, just because there are a lot of cars out there that are very expensive and they're having a lot of accidents.
Yeah, and there's always this cause effect. We've seen a slowdown in consumer spending. Do you expect that to continue? And how have these high prices impacted consumers basically saying, look, I'm not going to go out and buy? And what has it done to the habits in the last couple of years, would you say?
That's a great question because the consumers now are really split. Those who are very wealthy, the top 10% of the population, they can still afford to buy stuff and pay for services because the stock market increases really increased their wealth tremendously. But for the 80% of the people who are living paycheck to paycheck, the labor market data is showing that many, especially in the middle classes and the lower middle classes, are having to find second jobs. They're having a tough time making ends meet. So the high cost of living is really wearing down on people's ability to say, next year I can expect it to be better off than I am this year. And that's what's going to be showing up in the polls during the elections as well. That discontent will manifest.
Yeah, and William, we heard John Tarrant say that retail sales will be out tomorrow and earnings reports from places like Walmart. We have seen some of these retailers, Target, Walmart, they've been slashing prices. How much is that driven by the changes in the way Americans are actually shopping right now, maybe tightening the purse strings?
You really hit that on the nail. Walmart is experiencing an expansion of sales because upscale consumers that used to go to Macy's and Nordstrom's are starting to shop Walmart now because they find that the bargains there are hard to resist. And even the rich, are able to make ends meet better at places like Walmart. So you're seeing a shift in consumer behavior down to the lower end of retailers. And I think you're going to see, again, that split among the retailers that reflects the split that's in the U.S. population. The rich are doing well, are well off, but even they are starting to cut back, and the poor are barely able to make ends meet.
And William, I was talking about the purse strings, tightening the purse strings. We've also seen the Federal Reserve basically sitting on their hands. Looking at the latest CPI data, will that prompt them to actually make a move as far as reducing interest rates?
Absolutely. In fact, you can take to the bank that this September meeting, they're going to be lowering interest rates, probably a little bit at a time, like 25 basis points at a clip. But if the economy starts to weaken even further and consumers are really having a hard time making ends meet, they'll start to accelerate the pace of interest rate cuts. So we can expect some relief on the interest rate front coming really soon.
And we've been hearing so many people kind of clamoring that for some time. What kind of impact is that going to have, do you think?
It's going to take a while to show up. You're going to see it show up in terms of mortgages first. People are going to say, my God, I get an opportunity to refinance my 7 or 8% mortgage down to maybe 5 and 6%. And you're going to start seeing it in home sales too. People have been sitting on their low interest mortgages because they're afraid to sell their homes because they can't afford to buy a new one. They're going to see more supply of housing coming on the market. And I think there's going to be a lot of relief on that front as well.
There's also been this discussion last week. I know the market had some hiccups and there was all this talk about recession fears. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's still a major concern out there?
I think it's so unfortunate that so many economists say there are surefire indicators of a recession, and here it is. And every time they present this indicator that's supposed to be surefire, it doesn't work. Right? The inverted yield curve was supposed to be surefire, and we've had inverted yield curve now for more than a year and a half, 2 years. And now with the unemployment rate going up by half a percentage point, they say, oh, that's always a surefire indicator. And recessions don't happen when the unemployment rate is going up without layoffs. It's going up because more and more people are looking for jobs because their opportunities out there are getting better and better. When the unemployment rate is only between 4 and 4.5%, that's normal. And so, to me, all that talk of recession is just a lot of malarkey on part of people wanting to attract attention to themselves.
All right, William, well, I will tell you what is surefire. Your analysis, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.